Kim Taiho straightened his diamond cufflinks and brushed an invisible speck of dust from his tailored Italian suit. The sleek passenger liner Stella Dawn hummed beneath his feet as he stepped through the airlock. Into first class, round him, holographic displays showed the vast emptiness of space, dotted with distant stars that seemed to mock humanity's small place in the universe. Finally, he muttered, checking his platinum watch. The transport to Mars Colony Station was already running 15 minutes behind schedule. Taiho had 3 crucial business meetings waiting. As CEO of Nexus Industries, every minute cost him thousands of credits. The first-class cabin gleamed with polished chrome and soft blue lighting. Automated serving bots glided silently between seats, their sensors detecting passenger preferences. Taiho loved this luxury. It reminded him how far he'd climbed from his humble beginnings. His mood soured when he spotted the woman ahead of him in the aisle. Dr. Park Soo-jin moved carefully, balancing a large metallic case that clearly didn't belong in the refined atmosphere of first class. Her simple black outfit and focused expression made her stand out among the other wealthy passengers. "Excuse me," Soo-jin said politely to another passenger, her voice barely above a whisper. She was trying to lift her case into the overhead compartment, but it was heavier than it looked. Taiho rolled his eyes dramatically. The case bore strange symbols he didn't recognize, probably some cheap knockoff trying to look important. He'd seen plenty of people like her before, using connections or diversity programs to access spaces they hadn't earned. Some people clearly don't belong here, Taiho announced loudly, making sure his voice carried across the cabin. Several passengers turned to look, probably got her ticket through some charity program. An elderly businessman chuckled softly at Taiho's comment. A young couple exchanged uncomfortable glances, but said nothing. The serving bots continued their work, programmed to ignore passenger conversations and less directly address Soo-jin's. Hands trembled slightly as she finally secured her case. She'd heard comments like this her entire career, but they still stung. Inside that case were samples that could change humanity's understanding of life itself. Delicate, crystalline structures from Europa's subsurface ocean that seemed to respond to electromagnetic fields in impossible ways. These people think they can just buy their way into anything. Taiho continued, settling into his leather seat with theatrical emphasis. No respect for those who actually earn their place. 3 rows behind them, Colonel Lee Min-ho adjusted his reading glasses and observed the interaction with growing unease. To other passengers, he looked like any middle-aged academic in his simple grey sweater and dark pants. But beneath that ordinary exterior was one of Earth's top military intelligence officers. Min-ho's enhanced vision implants automatically analyzed Soo-jin's equipment case. The symbols weren't decorative. They were classification markers he recognized from the deepest levels of government security. Biohazard containment, xenological research, level 9 clearance. His breath caught in his throat. Dr. Park Soo-jin wasn't just any scientist. She was the Dr. Park Soo-jin, Earth's leading expert on non-terrestrial biology. Her research had quietly revolutionized humanity's understanding of life in the galaxy. The Colonel's memory banks, enhanced with military-grade neural implants, pulled up her classified vial. Born in Seoul to a family of teachers, Soo-jin had shown extraordinary intelligence from childhood. She'd earned 3 doctorate degrees by age 25 and had been personally recruited by the Global Science Consortium. More importantly, she was currently carrying samples from humanity's first confirmed discovery of alien life, not the simple microbes they'd found on Mars decades ago, but complex organisms that seemed to possess a form of collective intelligence. Min-ho watched Taiho continue his loud complaints and felt a chill run down his spine. The businessman had no idea He was insulting the woman who might hold the key to humanity's survival in an increasingly dangerous galaxy. Recent deep space scans had detected massive structures moving between star systems, artificial constructs larger than Earth's moon. Something was out there, and it was coming closer. The samples in Sujin's case might be humanity's first clue about what they were dealing with. The transport's engine shifted to a higher pitch as they accelerated toward the red planet. Through the observation windows, Mars grew larger, its rusty surface dotted with the gleaming domes of human colonies. Sujin pulled out a small tablet and began reviewing her research notes, trying to ignore the hostile atmosphere around her. The crystalline organisms in her case had shown remarkable properties. They seemed to communicate through quantum entanglement, sharing information instantaneously across vast distances. If her theories were correct, these creatures might be part of a galaxy-spanning network of intelligence, and if that network had noticed humanity's expansion into space, first contact might be closer than anyone imagined. Colonel Minho silently activated his secure communication implant, sending a priority message to Earth Command. They needed to know that their most valuable scientist was currently being harassed by an ignorant businessman who could jeopardize everything humanity had worked toward. The Stellar Dawn continued its journey through the void, carrying its passengers toward a destiny none of them could imagine. The Stellar Dawn pushed deeper into the black void between Earth and Mars, its fusion engines creating a soft blue glow that trailed behind like a comet's tail. The luxury transport was now millions of kilometers from home, surrounded by nothing but endless darkness and distant stars. Kim Tae-ho had ordered his third glass of expensive whiskey from the automated bar system. The alcohol made him bolder, his voice louder, and his opinions more toxic. He turned in his seat to face other first-class passengers, treating them like an audience for his prejudiced performance. "Look at her," he said, pointing rudely at Dr. Park Sujin. "Probably never worked a real day in her life. These diversity hires get handed everything on a silver platter while hard-working people like us have to fight for every opportunity." A middle-aged woman in the seat across from him shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should mind our own business," she suggested quietly. Tae-ho laughed harshly. "Business? That's exactly what I'm talking about. People like her destroying real business with their handouts and quotas. I've built my company from nothing, and now I have to compete against people who got their positions because of their skin color." Sujin tried to focus on a research tablet, but the words blurred as her hands shook with suppressed anger. She'd faced discrimination her entire career, but it never got easier. Every breakthrough she made, every discovery that advanced human knowledge, was dismissed by people like Tae-ho's luck or charity. The ship suddenly lurched as it hit an unexpected gravitational wave from a nearby asteroid field. Emergency lights flickered, and the artificial gravity system struggled to compensate. Passengers gripped their armrests as loose items floated briefly in the air. Sujin's equipment case, which she'd secured as carefully as possible, shifted violently. The magnetic locks held, but the case twisted open just enough to reveal its contents to the cabin. Inside, nestled in protective foam, were devices that looked like nothing Tae-ho had ever seen. Crystalline structures pulsed with their own inner light, connected by hair-thin cables that seemed to move on their own. Holographic displays flickered round each device, showing patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What the hell is that?" Tae-ho demanded, his voice cutting through the cabin's worried murmurs. "Some kind of fancy computer setup." Sujin quickly moved to close the case, but Tae-ho had seen enough to fuel his mockery. He stood up, swaying slightly from the alcohol and the ship's movement. "Fancy toys won't make you qualified," he sneered. "Loud enough for everyone to hear. Probably bought those props online to look important. I bet she doesn't even know how to turn them on. 3 rows back, Colonel Lee Min-ho felt his blood turn to ice water. His enhanced vision had captured every detail of those devices in the split second they were visible, the crystalline matrices, the quantum processors, the bioneural interfaces. He recognized them from the most classified briefings in human history. Those weren't toys or props. They were prototype translation matrices, designed specifically for communicating with non-human intelligence. Each device represented years of research and billions of credits in development. Only 3 people on Earth were authorized to handle them. Dr. Park Soo-jin was one of them. Min-ho's neural implants automatically accessed his secure memory files. The truth hit him like a physical blow. Soo-jin wasn't just any xenobiologist. She was Earth's lead xenolinguist. The woman who had cracked the communication patterns of the Europa organisms. Her work had revealed that those simple-looking crystals were actually part of a vast network spanning multiple star systems. The Colonel's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle vibrations from Soo-jin's case even through its shielding. The devices were active, constantly processing data and maintaining quantum-encrypted connections with research stations across the solar system. They were humanity's first working alien translators. But why was she traveling with them? Min-ho's security clearance gave him access to information that would terrify most civilians. Deep space monitoring stations had detected something massive approaching the outer solar system. Not asteroids or comets, but artificial structures moving with clear purpose and intelligence. First contact was no longer a distant possibility. It was an approaching reality. And the woman being mocked by a drunken businessman held humanity's only hope of peaceful communication with whatever was coming. Min-ho discreetly activated his secure communication ray, sending an encrypted message to Earth Command. The response came back within seconds, confirming his worst fears. Dr. Soo-jin was traveling to Mars Colony Station for an emergency meeting with the Solar Defense Council. The alien structures would reach the asteroid belt within 72 hours. The devices in her case weren't just translators. They were humanity's diplomatic tools for the most important conversation in human history. If the approaching aliens were hostile, Soo-jin's work might be the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. Tae-ho continued his drunken rant, completely unaware that he was insulting the woman who might save his species. Round the cabin, other passengers grew increasingly uncomfortable, but none of them knew the true stakes of the situation. The stellar dawn flew on through the darkness, carrying its precious cargo toward a destiny that would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Colonel Lee Min-ho closed his eyes and let his enhanced memory systems replay the classified briefings from 3 months ago. The secure conference room deep beneath Geneva had been filled with Earth's most powerful leaders, their faces grim as Admiral Chen Pazen of the terrifying truth. "The Altarian Empire has been watching us," the Admiral had said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her words. "Our deep space rays detected their scout ships 2 years ago. But we kept it classified to prevent panic." The holographic display had shown massive vessels, each one the size of Manhattan, moving through space with impossible grace. Their hulls gleamed like liquid metal, and energy readings suggested technology centuries beyond human capability. These weren't the simple probe ships humanity had dreamed of meeting. This was a full Imperial fleet. Min-ho remembered the shocked silence that followed. Earth's entire space navy consisted of maybe 50 ships, and most of those were mining vessels with basic defensive systems against the Altarian Empire. Humanity was like ants facing a hurricane. "How long do we have?" President Martinez had asked, her hands trembling slightly. 6 months, maybe less. They're not trying to hide anymore. Our analysis suggests they're preparing for a formal contact. That's when Dr. Park Soo-jin had stepped forward from the back of the room. Minho had recommended her personally after reviewing her incredible work with the Europa organisms. She was young, barely 35, but her mind worked in ways that amazed even veteran scientists. Contact doesn't have to mean conflict, Sujin had said quietly. The crystalline entities from Europa have taught us that intelligence can take forms we never imagined. If we approach this correctly, we might be looking at humanity's greatest opportunity instead of our extinction. The room had erupted in arguments. Military leaders wanted to prepare for war. Politicians demanded evacuation plans. Corporate executives saw dollar signs and started calculating profits from alien technology. But Sujin had remained calm, her dark eyes focused on something beyond the panic. I've been studying interspecies communication for 8 years. The patterns I've discovered suggest that most conflicts rise from misunderstanding, not malice. Give me the resources I need, and I can build a bridge between our species. Minho had watched her present her evolutionary translation matrices, devices that could analyze thought patterns, emotional responses, and even quantum brain states, to create true understanding between different forms of life. She'd already used early versions to prevent 3 smaller incidents. The first had been with the Zephyr Collective, silicon-based creatures that lived in the asteroid belt. Their mining operations had threatened Earth's shipping lanes, but Sujin discovered they were simply trying to build nurseries for their young. A simple relocation agreement prevented what could have been humanity's first interstellar war. Then came the encounter with the Void Dancers, energy beings that fed on solar radiation. They'd been draining power from human space stations, not out of malice, but because they didn't recognize the stations as inhabited. Sujin's communication protocols helped establish boundaries that protected both species. Most remarkably, she'd made contact with the hive queens of Proxima Centauri. These insect-like creatures controlled vast swarms of worker drones, and their expansion into human territory had seemed inevitable. But Sujin discovered they were actually fleeing something that terrified even them. Her negotiations led to a mutual defense pact that strengthened both civilizations. Each success had proven her theories about xenopsychology and interspecies empathy. Different species might look alien, but consciousness itself followed patterns that could be mapped and understood. Fear, curiosity, protection of young, desire for resources. These drives existed across the galaxy. Now, with the Altarian Empire approaching, Sujin represented humanity's best hope for survival. Her research had evolved into something that could bridge the gap between human thinking and truly alien intelligence. The devices in her case contained years of accumulated knowledge about galactic civilizations. The bitter irony wasn't lost on Minho. Kim Tae-ho worked for Nexus Industries, one of the largest technology corporations on Earth. His company had spent billions trying to reverse engineer alien technology from the smaller encounters. Their entire future business model depended on successful first contact with advanced civilizations. Tae-ho's quarterly reports, which Minho had reviewed as part of his security clearance, showed a company desperate for breakthrough technologies. Nexus Industries was hemorrhaging money on failed research projects, trying to unlock the secrets of alien materials and energy systems. Their shareholders were demanding results. If the Altarian Empire proved peaceful and willing to trade, Nexus Industries stood to become the most valuable corporation in human history. Their existing research infrastructure and government connections would make them the primary conduit for alien technology integration. But here was Tae-ho, drunk and prejudiced, actively undermining the very person who could make his company's dreams come true. His racist comments weren't just morally wrong. They were potentially catastrophic for his own financial future. The approaching Altarian fleet represented everything Tae-ho claimed to want: advanced technology, new markets, and limited expansion opportunities. Yet his bigotry blinded him to the woman who held the key to all of it. Sujin had spent 3 sleepless weeks preparing for this mission to Mars Colony Station, where she would conduct final tests of her translation systems before the Altarians arrived. The fate of 2 civilizations rested on her shoulders, and she was being treated like an unwelcome intruder by someone whose life she was trying to save. The stellar dawn shuddered as it approached Mars Colony Station's massive docking bay through the reinforced windows. Passengers could see the engineering marvel that humanity had built in just 50 years, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes and towers that housed over 2 million lion people. Kim Taiho pressed his face against the glass, already planning his networking strategy. Mars Station was where the galaxy's biggest deals were made, where corporate titans decided the future of interplanetary commerce. He had meetings lined up with 3 potential investors, all eager to hear about new opportunities in alien technology. The docking procedure took 20 minutes as the transport's AI systems synchronized with the station's traffic control. Massive robotic arms guided the ship into its berth while atmosphere pumps began equalizing pressure. Round them, dozens of other vessels came and went. Cargo haulers from the asteroid belt, luxury yachts from Europa, and sleek military corvettes on patrol duty. As passengers began disembarking, Taiho made sure to be among the first off the ship. He strutted through the airlock like he owned the place, his expensive suit drawing appreciative glances from station personnel. Behind him, Dr. Park Sujin moved quietly with her precious cargo, trying to avoid attention. The arrival lounge buzzed with activity. Holographic advertisements floated overhead, promoting everything from Martian real estate to asteroid mining equipment. Translation bots rolled between groups of travelers, their screens displaying messages in dozens of languages. The air smell of recycled atmosphere and the ozone from the station's massive energy generators. Taiho spotted his first networking opportunity almost immediately. A group of well-dressed individuals near the executive lounge entrance. He recognized some faces from business journals, but others were unfamiliar. Perfect. New contexts meant new opportunities. Gentlemen, ladies, he announced, approaching with his most charming smile. Kim Taiho, CEO of Nexus Industries. I just had the most interesting flight from Earth. The group turned to acknowledge him. Most appeared to be human, though 2 individuals stood slightly apart, their movements oddly graceful and their eyes holding an unusual depth. One was tall with pale skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the station's lights. The other had dark hair and features that were almost human, but something about their bone structure suggested otherwise. Please, tell us about your journey, said the pale figure, their voice carrying a slight accent that Taiho couldn't place. We find human travel experiences quite fascinating. Taiho launched into his story, embellishing details and painting himself as the hero of every interaction. You wouldn't believe the standards they're lying in first class these days. There was this woman, clearly didn't belong there. Probably got her ticket through some diversity program. The 2 unusual figures exchanged quick glances, but Taiho was too focused on his audience to notice. He continued his rant, describing Sujin in increasingly derogatory terms. The woman from my flight clearly wasn't qualified for whatever position she holds, he declared confidently. These people get handed opportunities that real professionals have to earn. She had some fancy equipment, but anyone can buy props to look important. The pale figure nodded slowly, but their expression had grown cold. And what do you believe makes someone qualified for important work? Merit, Taiho replied. Smugly, hard work, dedication, proper education from the right institutions, not handouts based on skin color or gender quotas. And known to Taiho, He was speaking to Commander Velta and Dr. Zixana of the Altarian Empire's Advanced Reconnaissance Team. They had spent months studying human culture, learning to blend in while observing social interactions. The Altarian High Council had specifically requested information about humanity's capacity for cooperation and unity. Commander Velta's hidden recording devices captured every word of Taiho's bigoted speech. The Altarians had encountered many species in their expansion across the galaxy, and they'd learned that internal divisions often predicted a civilization's potential for growth or destruction. Meanwhile, across the station, Colonel Minho emerged from a secure transport wearing his full military dress uniform. The sight of his numerous medals and insignia caused a stir among nearby civilians. Station security immediately cleared a path as he moved with purpose toward the arrival. Lounge Sujin waited patiently by the baggage claim, her equipment case secured to a hover cart. She'd changed into a simple blue outfit that identified her as government personnel, though most people wouldn't recognize the significance of her subtle rank insignia. The station's announcement system crackled to life, its voice echoing through the massive complex. Dr. Park Sujin, Earth's chief xenolinguist and first contact specialist, please report to Diplomatic Bay Alpha. Priority 1 clearance is active. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Conversation stopped throughout the lounge as people recognized the title. Chief Xenolinguist was a position most civilians had only heard about in news reports about humanity's growing contact with alien species. Taiho's confident smile faltered as the words sank in. He turned to see Colonel Minho approaching Sujin with obvious respect, saluting her as she gathered her equipment. Dr. Park, Minho said formally, "The Council is ready for your briefing. Your translation matrices are our highest priority." Sujin nodded professionally, but Taiho caught a glimpse of the stress in her eyes. Are the Altarian representatives prepared for the preliminary communications test? They arrived this morning. Everything depends on your protocols working correctly. The color drained from Taiho's face as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. The woman he'd spent hours insulting wasn't just some random passenger. She was one of the most important people in human civilization. Commander Velta observed Taiho's shocked expression with interest. The human's behavior provided valuable data about his species' capacity for prejudice and self-deception. How could someone so completely misjudge another person's worth? Dr. Zixana was already compiling her report for the Altarian High Council. Humanity showed remarkable potential for scientific advancement and creativity, but their social divisions remained troubling. This Taiho individual represented the kind of thinking that had destroyed other civilizations they'd encountered. As Sujin and Colonel Minho disappeared into a secure lift heading to the classified levels, Taiho stood frozen in the middle of the lounge. His networking companions had quietly moved away, embarrassed by association with his earlier comments. The two Altarian observers melted back into the crowd, their mission partially complete. They had witnessed both humanity's greatest asset and its most dangerous weakness within the span of a single conversation, deep within Mars Colony Station's most secure level. The first contact chamber hummed with energy that seemed to bend reality itself. The room was a marvel of human engineering, crystalline walls that could shift their molecular structure, atmospheric processes that could create any breathable environment, and quantum communication rays that connected directly to Earth's defense networks. Dr. Park Sujin stood at the center of it all. Her translation matrices ranged in a perfect circle round her, each device pulsed with its own inner light, creating patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. She had spent 3 years perfecting these machines, and now they would either save humanity or witness its final moments. The Altarian delegation materialized without warning, their advanced transportation technology making the air itself shimmer like water. 3 beings stepped through what looked like liquid starlight, their forms both beautiful and terrifying to human perception. The lead Alterian stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body composed of what appeared to be living crystal that shifted between colors humans had no names for. Energy flowed beneath its translucent skin like captured lightning. When it moved, space itself seemed to bend round it. Its companions were equally magnificent and alien. One resembled a flowing mass of silver liquid that maintained a roughly humanoid shape through pure. Well, the other appeared to be made of condensed starlight, its form constantly shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Sujin felt her heart racing but forced herself to remain calm. These beings could destroy Earth's entire civilization with a thought, but they had chosen to talk instead. That gave her hope. Her translation matrices activated automatically, scanning the Alterians' bioelectromagnetic fields and quantum signatures. The devices she'd spent years perfecting began their impossible work, translating not just language, but thought patterns, emotional states, and concepts that had never existed in human minds. The crystalline being spoke, its voice like music, played on instruments made of frozen time. Sujin's matrices processed the sounds, converting them into meaning her brain could understand. We are the Verthik of the Alterian Empire. Your species has been observed. Your expansion into the void concerns the Galactic Council. We come to determine if humanity deserves to continue its existence. The weight of those words would have crushed a lesser person, but Sujin had prepared for this moment her entire career. She activated her own communication protocols, her voice carrying through the translation matrices to reach the aliens in their own conceptual language. I am Sujin of Earth, speaking for all humanity. We are young and still learning, but we seek understanding rather than conflict. We wish to grow and contribute to the galactic community. The silver liquid being flowed closer, its form rippling with what Sujin's devices interpreted as curiosity. Your species shows promise, but also concerning divisions. We have observed hatred among your kind. How can we trust a species that cannot unite itself? Sujin felt the full weight of humanity's failures pressing down on her. Every war, every act of discrimination, every moment of cruelty in human history seemed to echo in that chamber. But she also thought of humanity's capacity for growth, for change, for redemption. We are not perfect, she admitted, her honesty transmitted perfectly through the quantum translation field. We have made terrible mistakes and continue to struggle with our own nature. But we are learning. Every generation becomes wiser, more compassionate. Our flaws make us stronger when we choose to overcome them. The energy being pulsed with what seemed like approval. Through the translation matrices, Sujin felt its ancient wisdom. This creature had lived for thousands of years and witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Hours passed as the negotiations continued. Sujin presented humanity's achievements, not just technological advances, but acts of kindness, moments of sacrifice, the gradual expansion of human empathy to embrace all life. She showed them art, music, literature that captured the human spirit's endless capacity for growth. Outside the chamber, Kim Tae-ho pressed his face against the reinforced observation window, watching history unfold before his eyes. Security guards had allowed him into the viewing area after Colonel Min-ho requested it, not as a courtesy, but as a lesson. Tai-ho could see Sujin moving gracefully among the towering alien beings, a small human form somehow commanding respect from creatures that could reshape matter with their thoughts. The woman he had dismissed as unqualified was now determining the fate of every human who had ever lived or ever would live. His secure phone buzzed with incoming messages. His company's board of directors had called an emergency meeting. Government contracts were being cancelled. The security footage from his flight had somehow reached every major news network on Earth and Mars. Nexus Industries permanently barred from alien technology program scrolled across his phone. Screen, CEO's racist. Comments jeopardize human-alien relations. Corporate leaders' prejudice could have doomed species. Through the observation window, he watched Sujin extend her hand toward the crystalline Altarian leader. The being studied her gesture for a long moment, then reached out with something that might have been a hand, might have been a tentacle, of pure energy. The moment their forms touched, the entire chamber erupted in light. The translation matrices sang with harmonious frequencies that seemed to resonate in the quantum fabric of reality. Self, a treaty was being signed not just in words or documents, but in the very structure of space and time. Humanity had been accepted into the Galactic Council. Earth would be protected, guided, allowed to grow into its cosmic potential. Trade agreements would bring technologies that could solve every problem human civilization faced. The stars themselves were now open to human exploration, all because of the woman Tayo had spent hours insulting and dismissing. Colonel Minho appeared beside him at the observation window. "She saved us all," he said quietly. "Every human alive today owes their future to Dr. Park Sujin's wisdom and patience." Taiho's reflection stared back at him from the reinforced glass, a broken man who had almost destroyed everything through his own ignorance and hatred. The woman he had judged unworthy had proven herself worthy of saving an entire species. In his final report to Earth Command, Colonel Minho wrote, "Humanity's greatest strength has never been our weapons or our technology. It lies in individuals like Dr. Park Sujin, whose compassion and intelligence can bridge any gap, overcome any obstacle, and unite even the most different forms of life. As long as we have people willing to build bridges instead of walls, humanity will thrive among the stars." The Altarian ships departed Mars' orbit 3 days later, leaving behind a humanity forever changed. Sujin returned to Earth as the most celebrated person in human history. But she carried the recognition humbly, already planning humanity's next steps into a larger universe. Taiho watched the alien vessels disappear into hyperspace from his empty office, his company dissolved, his reputation destroyed. The woman he had dismissed had saved his world, and in doing so, had taught him the most expensive lesson of his life, D&D.